Hello everyone, Mike Levin. July 14th, I do believe, and I just walked past the Empire State Building. You know, it's really interesting. It takes a while to get to know New York. It's the rewiring of your synaptic patterns. So I am trying to learn machine learning as part of my job, and I know it's easy to fire up, say, the TensorFlow tutorials and walk through them. And, you know, I'm really on the verge of that. I don't want to drag it out too long. That will be the subject matter of one of these coming videos. And once I know how to use TensorFlow itself in general, I should be able to use some data bucket, some cloud-based data bucket out there, perhaps Amazon S3. And then the TPU, TensorFlow processing units that Google has released in hardware in little blades for data centers, meaning that as a service you can purchase the processing power necessary to do neural net style processing. A big job. I guess we're still in the batch processing days of neural net stuff. You articulate a problem, wrap it all up neatly as a request, and then you let it, you hit run, such as it were. Because before that moment, it was not running. So that typically is a batch processing model system. And whenever a technology hits, it's got its batch processing days, and then it's got its real-time and then post-real-time days. So in the batch processing days, there's things like punchcards, and then there's stuff like data that exists in a static form as a snapshot of the data as it was when that persistent record, that backup, was made. So you run, you know, jobs against data sets. Non-recursive processes. You run it once, some input in, some input out. And that is a clear way of thinking about things. The people involved in having to do this stuff are very comfortable because there's a number of very static initial given conditions. And there is a very well-defined function or process or algorithm or program or, you know, whatever you want to call it, series of steps that you do to this data, usually to produce some more data, which you then have to find a place to put it. So there's an output task as well. And it created this kind of holy temple or priesthood they like to talk about with the really old IBM processors, and back in the days when mainframes was a big deal. I mean, in a way they still are a big deal, but for very different reasons, very over-the-top reasons, because the old tasks that mainframes were built for could be done by a wristwatch, the processing power of a wristwatch today. There are new classes of problems being created, but I am jumping ahead. That is the post-real-time world. There comes a day when you realize that you can sit on the data pipe and just listen to what's going through it, through almost a process of induction, so you're not interfering with or slowing down the original job. In other words, let business keep running. You don't have to, you know, freeze the cash register to do the books. You just watch every transaction as it happens, like a pair of eyes looking at the register. All money in, all money out. Everything accounted for in one long blockchain. So there's a high confidence in the data integrity of your data that you're accumulating in real time along with the original source. So you know you can work upon what you have and achieve answers right now. So what you need to do this is precisely enough RAM memory or really, really fast access static memory, but most likely you want this in the fastest processor-like memory you have directly processed or addressable. And that eliminates or erases the distinction between long-term memory and storage, like a hard drive, and the RAM in your system. The RAM in your system is also the storage. It is just the state it's in. And these types of real-time systems, often called in-memory databases, SAP HANA is an example of this, they erase the distinction between the reporting layer and the data collection layer. You can essentially treat the data collection layer as a reporting layer because it's keeping up with you. It's running little batch process jobs over and over, getting its distilled down aggregate, grouped by, whatever you want to call it, transforms that need to be done to the data, calculations, indexes built, fast enough to keep up with the data collection. So most top-line answers can be given quickly. What were the total, sales for the last quarter, or up to this moment, to the last transaction that happened at a cash register? You can answer those questions because most of the common asked for aggregate values have already been calculated and are stored in a quick lookup table related to the original transaction IDs, but not requiring their retrieval. It requires retrieval from an extremely much smaller lookup table, that's optimized for lookups, and has the number already calculated. And if it doesn't, it has 1 or 2 steps down the line, so it only has to do half the work that it would have had to have done were those tables not created, indexes. So real-time systems create real-time database indexes that you can interact with for the most common queries and have really, really killer performance. So, that was, yesterday's news. We've been there for a while now. It's not what most people are using every day, but those systems exist and are, the advantage of them are realized by businesses, I'm sure, like the giant corporations, the Walmarts and the Amazons every day. And, us mere mortals are using what cloud services and capabilities are put out there before us by the people who have that same set infrastructure, Amazon, and they release a vast ecosystem of online services that let you build anything you need from online store to, the warehousing and distribution, and perhaps even the manufacturing. If I size Amazon correctly, they want to go straight from your creativity and your ability to produce and offer product to perfectly finding your customers. In a sense, in a way, that what they're doing is bigger than the internet, because the internet is mostly about instantaneous global communication. That's cool, but if you can do home crafty, business product, jam, and deliver it to anyone, anywhere in the world without all that overhead of logistics, making it either not worth it or having to price your product at $1,000 for a jar of jam. Instead, Amazon super optimizes all the steps in between and offers all the components you need to build such said global order taking, delivery, customer finding, perhaps community building, certainly phone call and video call making, voice command in your home ecosystem. What Amazon is doing is big. And I'm now walking around with, I should really show this, it's funny, I've got my blue headphones on, I've got my blue umbrella, and I've also got, interestingly enough, my blue, I'm not sure if you can see it, but take my word for it, it's my blue Kindle. So I've had a Nexus 7 when it was first released. Let me see if I can create a good thumbnail here. That would be cool. There! That's a Fire HD 8 that I got on Prime Day for 50 bucks because I couldn't resist it. 16 gigabytes and all this neat stuff. And so I'm starting to get to know the Amazon OS and ecosystem the way I got to know Android over the past few years between my Nexus tablet and 2 generations of Samsung Note Android with all the Samsung TouchWiz stuff and the S Pen, which I really love. I may be doing the Note 8, and I would carry that and the iPhone 6 SE around because the 6 SE is so small and works as my wallet. Why not? I'll add a phablet on top of that, and that'll eliminate me the need to carry around my tablet. Point is, I got one of those for my daughter too, the kid edition that has this rubberized case, which I'll maybe do an unboxing video with, but really I'll just let Addie enjoy that moment. You know, for me to capture it and freeze it like I do now, I got the time and discretion to do that, so I'll be doing that for my stuff. And for stuff for my daughter, I think I'm just gonna let her enjoy the pleasure of the moment. I'll occasionally let people get glimpses into my life because, hey, it's cool. I'm proud of it, proud of my daughter. The way Rachel and I are bringing up Addie is just super cool. I would so have loved the life she's leading. And of course, a few things are lost, but plenty of things are gained. And one thing, you know, that I'll be doing now is showing you these experiments, because you gotta have many irons in the fire, that I'm doing in order to stay on top of the state of affairs. I'm doing the Echo thing. I have a Dot, and so I'm learning Alexa. That tablet I just showed you has Alexa built in. Maybe I'll get a couple of home automation devices. I was the geek that had my whole place done up with a Radio Shack, was it X10 system? I can even forget what it was called, but it's essentially today's smart home stuff, ye old, achieved with these things you plugged into your outlets that communicated by radio signals over your electrical lines, and you had some master control box somewhere as smart as you wanted to make it, and some people had it hooked up to PCs. And I never did that. I had just the control tablet, so I felt like, you know, controlling things was like the way it was in sci-fi, and I really enjoyed that for a while. But after having moved 10 times or so, and now living in New York, I have a new appreciation for kind of like that core survival stuff. And an automated smart home was not part of that picture, so I gave that stuff up, got rid of my X10s, and you know, the rise of this new generation of stuff is upon us, and I need to stay familiar. Sometimes not first generation, so even though I was on the Nexus 7 tablets, I think the 7-inch thing, I was not on a Pixel phone generation 1, but I might do a generation 2, but I'm gonna choose because I pay, and everything you see me do, I've made my personal decisions as a consumer with where I was going to invest my penny. And I've made very careful studies. I don't use this stuff the way someone who gets it sent free would use it. I use it like I'm trying to be an artist and a note taker, you know, patterned after many of those people out there whose notebooks have become these, you know, international humanity treasures like Leonardo da Vinci. But I don't do that stuff. And I never pursued my interests because I was in the daily grind making money, and I found other things that didn't involve drawing and illustrating. And now the biggest thing in SEO is being able to illustrate well, i.e. infographics. And here I am, a Python guy, getting ready on the edge, on the verge of doing bokeh, you know, for visualization of data. Realizing that Samsung is not eliminating the Note line. In fact, the Note 8 is upon us, and it's going to be timed with my 47th birthday. So happy Father's Day, happy Prime Day, and happy birthday. Where's the money coming from? Well, in not too long, I'll have a lot of expenses going away. Of mortgage. I'll be going back to the renter's life in New York City, which is not bad. It provides a level of mobility and freedom because where your roots are planted, which is a point I make to Addie quite often, is not in any particular particular apartment when you live in Manhattan, because don't confuse an apartment in New York City, one of the 5 boroughs, with a place you're going to own for the rest of your life. Your roots are New York City. The mapping out that you're doing in your head that matters is not where your bedroom is located in some floor layout, but it's where you're located in a city as it relates to the rest of the planet. And I just got to make sure she has the advantages of the suburbia that I was exposed to growing up in the suburbs of Philly, Lafayette Hill, for those who know the area. It's nice to own a car. It's nice to be getting your learner's permit by the time you're 15 and driving on your 16th birthday. That's a nice thing. I enjoyed that. It provides a level of freedom that you know that if you can pay for a place you live and the expenses related to the car, you are a potentially totally mobile and free individual, mostly in the United States. If you want to go outside of it, all you need in addition to that is a passport and know how to drive on the left-hand side of the road, and you're pretty set. You are a global citizen. So you start with some places in New York and Catskills and Vermont and all this. It's all very cool. And then you broaden that cloud of space that you start mapping it out. We start doing a few trips to LA, visit some of my friends over there that I almost feel like I am in daily touch with, seeing glimpses of their lives as they see glimpses of my life. People who I was very close with growing up and who I wanted to hang out with. They were the ones. But when I moved to New York City, I became very distant from some very dear families, including Mark Rifkin and his parents. And it's like I see them every single friggin' day, and what's going on with Mark and his kid who's older than Addie growing up. And I realized that the bonds that unite us are strong online. These are not fake. People who like to put down social media and Facebook, and why Facebook is for the older generation, it's because it's nice to feel where you fit into that big picture and stay connected to the people who are part of your molecule, no matter where you go on the planet. That's good. And technology in general is good. And so long as we keep, AIs, friendly towards humanity, the future is very, very, very bright. And I want to instill that into Addie. And, I'm not going to, command or direct her to go into some, here's how you control masses of machines through coding and expressing yourself and, training emergent properties out of neural network hardware or anything like that. Except I will let her know that this is stuff that's happening, absolutely is taking place. And those who sort of tweak that process and bring it to people in the most benevolent and, designed safe ways, i.e. Amazon, right? As long as their drones don't carry any weapons, are doing that today. And it's really awesome. It's like, living the rise of the robots awesome. We are in the early days of the Asimov iRobot sci-fi, the earlier days. By the time Addie is my age, there will at least be a robot doing all the tedious housework and folding your socks, and there's going to be big questions about how networkable things could be, because no matter how limited capacity something is by design, if it has an API and a connection to the outside world, it is potentially part of some greater control system, which you have to always just be aware of and build in the safeties and, Asimov's rules of robotics, ... Some of this has to become real and true, right?